Hamas is now, they publish these pictures and they're just saying to everybody, on October 7th, we broke into a country and we slaughtered 1,200 people at a time of peace. And many of us were working with Israel. 20,000 of us were treated very well. We crossed the border and were working, and we just slaughtered them. And then we took 240-something prisoners, and we've been doling them out for political purposes. And you're not going to get work because we're thugs and terrorists. You're not going to get the other 45. And then I would ask the governments of these 3 English-speaking countries, how many countries do you recognize where the government takes hostages as terrorists? How many do you do that? Because that's what they're doing. And when they want a separate state, they want this terrorist state, because that's what's going to happen if you allow a separate state in Gaza. So, if somebody did that to the UK or Canada, came into their country, murdered 1,200 people, and then stuck their tongue out and wagged their finger at them and said, we've got hostages, what are you going to do about it? I think they'd be very upset. And it's really weird. We're going to talk about Trump's solid polls, but one of the reasons that they're solid is for all of the anger at him from the left, he has a moral compass. And on these main issues, you don't take hostages. There is a difference between a constitutional democracy in Israel and a bunch of thugs in Hamas. And he makes that clear. And Europe is not doing itself any good, no matter how in extremist they are, by buying oil from Russia.
The October 7th attacks by Hamas resulted in the deadliest terror event in Israel's history, with 1,200 killed and 251 hostages taken, including civilians from Israel and other nations. Of those kidnapped, 148 have been released and 48 remain in captivity, with many used tragically as bargaining chips or propaganda tools. This ongoing crisis reveals the terrible human cost of hostage-taking as politics, fueling global outrage and complicating any hope for stability, especially when calls for independent states risk turning into safe havens for organized terror. For Western governments faced with such violence, negotiating the right response becomes a test of both moral and strategic resolve.
The Muslim population that they let in, and mostly from the Middle East, remember Angela Merkel, yes, we can do this, we can do this. No, you can't. You ruin your country doing it. But I think it's part of a larger wave. You see Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, you see Neil Farage, Maloney, Viktor Orban, and then the efforts to squash it. But it's a holistic movement in Europe and the United States, and we are sick of all this. We have nothing to apologize for. We're not settler colonialists. Go look at what the Ottomans did when they were. You people never mention the Ottomans. You never mention the Caliphate. All you do is Europe, 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 West, 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 West. And yet you want to come here. All you do is trash our country, our civilization, and then you beg to come here. We have the same problem. I mean, the mayor of Dearborn in that infamous city council meeting where the mayor just told that one guy who was objecting to honoring somebody who had been affiliated with Hamas, he said, you don't belong here in the United States, and to a U.S. citizen, because there's a majority Muslim population in Dearborn. He would like to remind him there is not a majority population of Muslims in the United States. So Dearborn is not the United States in terms of demography. And then we had Ilhan Omar basically say, I don't like Charlie Kirk. He is a fascist. I'm not going to quote what he said or anything. I'm just going to hate him, and I'm not going to participate in this fraud. And that was what Ilhan Omar blasted out in Congress, said that basically he was a Frankenstein monster, Dr. Frankenstein whose monster blew his neck apart, gross and vile. And then we had Rashid Tlaib, who goes on her rants, and then AOC. And I think people are just getting tired of all that, They don't like the idea that people flock to Europe and then they act in a particular way against its traditions and history and values and protocols, which, if they were to get their way, would destroy the reason why they came there. The same thing was true of us. And, why do these people come from the Middle East and then they get here And I'm not talking about citizens alone, but they're on visas or green cards, and then they start demonstrating for this terrorist organization, and they start attacking this country. And then when you politely in the State Department say, you're on a green card, you're on a visa, Mr. Mohammed Khalid, would you please go back home? Because you obviously don't like the system here, because you came over to get an education, and all you do is attack the United States foreign policy and blast its allies and praise a terrorist organization. No, you can't do that to me. You can't do that to me. I want to come here and attack your country. It's like inviting somebody in. He said, I hate your table, I hate your food, I hate you, but you can't kick me out. And the same thing with Ilhan Omar. That's, I'm just going on a rant, but you think of all the things that DEI does. I don't think we've really appreciated the toxicity of that ideology. It basically says we are not going to enforce norms, customs, laws to a particular group of people who are self-declared historical victims by the basis of their historical oppression, but more importantly, their superficial appearance in the here and now. So if you are a non-white person, you are going to get an exemption. That means you can be the mayor of LA and you can be in Ghana and no one's going to criticize you. You can be Teresa Stokes, the magistrate that let out DeCarlos Brown to kill Irania Zarutska, and you don't even have to pass the bar to be a judge. You can be the head of LA Water and Power and have a dry reservoir, no problem. You can be the deputy mayor of Los Angeles and be under house arrest when the fire hits because you phoned in a bomb threat. You can be DeCarlos Brown and let out 14 times and prey on people and no one's going to say a word.
Europe's struggle with assimilation and identity is playing out in real time. Countries once confident in their openness now see a wave of backlash and political transformation. Cities like Dearborn, Michigan have become battlegrounds where debates over foreign policy, community identity, and DEI standards spill into public meetings, sometimes leading to heated exchanges about belonging and representation. While activists and some officials invoke language of historical grievance, the facts point to a society whose freedoms, protections, and prosperity continue to attract newcomers from around the world. But as polarization grows, fatigue with endless victimhood rhetoric is inspiring a rethinking of norms, accountability, and shared values. Societies that fail to enforce equal standards risk undermining their own foundations and the stability that drew immigrants in the first place. If you value honest analysis and real conversations, make sure to subscribe. Hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. What did we miss and what should we tackle next? Your voice makes this community stronger. Let's keep pushing for the truth together.